Ladies, gentlemen, and others, my name is Dan, the voice behind that Kaito Dan, and welcome to my review for RWBY Volume 8, Episode 13, Worthy. But before we get started, as always, please make sure you've watched the episode first on roosterteeth.com to support the show and avoid spoilers. Diving right away into the fandom spotlight, understandably, a fair amount of comments were centered on the blue beefcake, Ambrosius, with Jake Carroll making a strong guess how the classic limitations that were showcased by Disney's Genie might play into the rest of Ambrosius' spirit brethren. Meanwhile, Robert Mahadi shared their eagerness to see Penny, now freshly human, reunite with Pietro and Maria, as well as fearing Cinder's plans making such a reunion rather difficult. And finally, the voice of Penny herself, Taylor McNee, aka Simply Better, kindly cleared up some confusion over who delivered that fake-out line to Ironwood. So here we are folks, the penultimate episode of RWBY Volume 8. And boy did it have a whopper of a chapter to follow on. After our heroes kicked Ironwood and the Aesops to the curb, we finally met our newest relic spirit in all his charismatic flair, watched as Penny became a real meat person, free from the shackles of her old self, and suddenly the distant sands of Vacuo were now within reach thanks to the creation of the Golden Gateway portals, capping off a massively positive time for RWBY and the gang. Of course, even with such a big win for the good guys, us fans were still nervous, especially with 2 chapters still to go, Cinder looking to cause more trouble, and Ambrosius' warning of not falling pretty much setting the stage for those happy vibes to turn sour rapid quick. Once again, we were left teetering on the edge of being hyped and scared, but by the end of this chapter, did any downfall lead to the quality's decline as well? Or was this a chapter worthy of high praise? Let's find out. Quick things first, respect again to Rooster Teeth for giving those most at risk another warning about flashing lights being in an episode, and considering what happened the last time we had this warning, it also acted as one last tease of this being a literal explosive episode. But we start proper with a portal opening up to Team Juniper and Emerald, where they're still thrown off by the evacuation message and kingdom-wide communications getting disrupted, prompting a change of plans. But first, someone's got to see if these portals actually work. So step forward, poor test dummy Jean. Even some awesome warping effects doesn't make this an easy ride for the lad, who just barely avoids becoming Vomit Boy again upon entry. Guess if normal transport makes him queasy, it shouldn't be a surprise to see him struggle with magical travel as well. Anyway, while Ren, Emerald and Oscar head off to prepare things on the Vacuo side, Jean and Nora will run off to the other portals to get the warning out on foot. And I like these split teams and the fact that they make sense. Jean and Nora have the best means of getting around quick with their weapons, meanwhile Ren's going to be needed to deal with the mass influx of negative emotions from the evacuees to protect them from the Desert Grim. A big detail that I was so glad to see pointed out to stress that they're not out of the woods just yet, only trading one hazardous location for another, which keeps the suspense high even on the other side until more help arrive. Speaking of the folks in need of rescue, we get one more dose of comedy with the understandably cautious reactions of these lot over in the station shoutout, leading to some more Jean suffering thanks to a poorly timed rock throw. I know some people have been a bit off about some of the comedic timings of recent episodes, but for me, they last short enough to not be overbearing or distracting. Even here, it's just a quick bit of humour mixed in with some understandable panic from the civvies, though I won't lie, I think this scene would have been even better if any of the thirsty moms or the kids that Jean helped lead to school back in the last volume came out to vouch in trusting him, just as a cute callback and an effective way for these Atlesians to trust a total stranger beyond him just flashing a huntsman license. Anyway, we do see people starting to cross over, like the confirmed still maiden Penny and the RWBY girls, plus Fiona, Joanna and May, who help out with the funneling, while we switch over just in time to see Ren, Em and Oscar step foot into Vacuo, our first proper steps into the Desert Kingdom too, outside of the World of Remnants and the E.C. Myers books. And as expected, it's sandy as all heck. Worse still is they've ended up right in the middle of a sandstorm that's making it impossible to call for help from folks in the capital. On the plus side, we see Fanthave's Shovel Lady and her sourpuss racist mother are among the first to arrive, along with the child of the Fox Lady they've been frequently seen getting acquainted with over the course of the volume. It's actually kinda sweet seeing this tiny background story develop through these brief appearances, especially because we have been lacking wider focus on the Faunus angle while in Atlas. It is a shame that this looks to be the bulk of that kind of material, with our time in Atlas coming up short now soon, and it will probably be one of the Atlas arc's biggest missteps. But at the very least, this is still better than nothing. Alas, things go from bad to worse when Cinder makes her presence known in a big way, blasting off in a crowd, causing everyone to start fleeing for safety, while those caught in the explosion get sent flying into the void. Tragic as that is, I am glad to see that once shit hit the fan, the civvies weren't invulnerable to the danger. Actually showing people falling off just amps up the high stakes and makes the upcoming action all the more tense, knowing the heroes have to protect themselves and the tons of innocents still caught in the crossfire. Immediately, Team RWBY rush in while leaving Penny behind to protect her power and the staff, keeping their priorities in check, which for RWBY especially is pleasing to see, as it notes that she's not letting her recent doubts when plans fall apart hold her back, and Yang's words of encouragement did seem to land its mark. However, the problems go beyond just Cinder's appearance, as she starts teasing the group about a recent comment from Oscar during their planning. Something that Cinder should have no clue about being a thing, let alone what was said there. After a sick scythe/slash transition back to the villain meetup in the alley, it starts to dawn on us that she did come across such details through a means that's kind of upsetting. Though not before we see some more interesting comments, this time regarding Cinder herself, the vixen apologizing to Neo for not holding up her end of the bargain. While in the past it would be easy to assume that this is just her promising to give Neo a shot at RWBY as nothing more than mental manipulation to trick her, but here it's actually sounding like she's genuinely sorry, and that's incredibly fascinating. We've never seen her be this humble and admitting of her own failures before, and it seems to stem from Watts' verbal bashing, causing her to finally reevaluate on where she's gone wrong in the past, now realizing that she has to think smarter to succeed, and this includes meeting her allies halfway, rather than just seeing them as tools to use as she sees fit. Of course, she's also doing this to make sure that Neo does give her the lamp, but if Cinder is truly learning from her failures rather than running from them, and is willing to put aside her ego to improve her odds of success, then we could be looking at her much needed melding of her raw vicious strength with some of that classic tactical cunning that was Cinder's staple during the early run of the show in the Beacon arc, a prospect that is full of tasty character development and the jolt in the arm that she's needed for her threat level for a while. Gotta love though that Neo stowed the lamp in her hat, not just as a way that she can reveal so with her usual flair, like a magician at work, but also cause it makes sense. She'd protect such a key item inside her own protected treasure. And what's even better is she doesn't trust Cinder's word instantly, as she holds onto the lamp a little bit longer for a tug of war shot. She's sharp enough to suspect a trick is still at play, but even when she does relent, it's another entry in the stellar ways that Neo's intentions are showcased better through her expressions and actions than any words could do. Though Cinder raises further questions about her intentions as well, while she softens her glare, really making me excited to see where this new direction could lead Mistfall if we are set for more intriguing evolutions of her attitude and mentality. Okay, before anything else as well, I love Watts' look of shock here at the sight of Jin. Maybe as a man of science, he's blown away seeing an all-knowing magical being. Well, you know, despite the fact that he's working for Salem and he knows of things like maidens and silver-eyed warriors. That, or, you know, he's just in awe at seeing a giant blue woman with no clothes on and big, titillating magical females aside, yep, Cinder ends up being the one to use the final question. asking Jin what is it that RWBY is planning. And this has left a few people feeling rather blue themselves that this is what the last question was used for, not anything massive like full details on Summer, Team Stark, or the Beacon Relic. Instead, it's just used as a cheat code to catch the villains up to the heroes' plans instantly. Some of those letdown feelings will simply be due to it not being a satisfying outcome after such a long time building up to its use, and the fact that this is stuff that we already know, so bar knowing how Cinder caught wind of the plans, we don't really gain as much new info as we would have liked, which I can understand. Plus, this does also remove the best storytelling mechanic the show has to show visual aid of its reveals in a way that caters to the cast's need and our own, which for me is the biggest loss of this moment. At the same time though, we're already getting summer-related content as is, and there's every chance that star content and the location of the Beacon Relic will follow suit too, so it's not like these mysteries won't be explored without the need of Jin. Not to mention, we still have the mystery of what was the first question, and this is still gonna have major ripple effects, cause now no one can use Jin till the next reload 100 years from now, including Salem. And you know when she finds out about this, she's gonna be pissed, especially should she learn that it was Cinder who is responsible, prompting a major backlash, I'm sure. And before we say sayonara to Jin, I do like that her final moment is her crestfallen look over being used to potentially harm the group that she's clearly quite fond of. A nice bit of characterization as the bewitching blue beauty bows out for now. Alas, poor Jin does have to follow her orders, and the trio then learn of their enemy's plans for the staff, evacuation, and so on. But one surprise reveal to Cinder is of course Emerald joining the heroes, and she does not look happy at all. Bad way for her to learn about this without giving Emerald a chance to explain herself. And yet it's kind of ironic that after finally learning to value what she stands to gain by treating the people she works with as allies, not tools, Cinder discovers that she's lost her most trusted follower. Of course, we still don't know how cemented Emerald's turn will be until these two finally cross paths again, but hopefully Emerald can see that she is better off with people that would actually truly value her over someone whose consideration isn't so assured. As well as, the whole working for the person trying to destroy the world deal. We also hear Cinder actually offer to finish what Watt started in using Atlas's own tech against them, which again is a massive show of growth for someone who, as Watts himself pointed out, would previously change even Salem's plans just to focus on her own schemes. Now she's willing to consider other people's ideas. And again, it really does feel like we're getting some of that sharper, tactical thinking from the early days of the series back in her character that should make her all the more dangerous when combined with her incredible strength. Heck, even the music seems to be celebrating this landmark moment too, with a light-toned melody backed by sinister string work serenading Cinder's newfound perspective, all the while acting like the introductory tune to a party as the trio then move to totally wreck shop at the Atlas military HQ. And I do mean wreck shop, with one of the most brutal hard cuts in the series. The juxtaposition of the happy tune against such dark imagery is just perfect, really selling this being a very bad thing, yet to Cinder, it's her brightest moment in some time. Fantastic musical directing touch here. Also, I think Bill is gonna need a new mug. If he's not already #1 dead. By the way, just a reminder, Bill isn't Velvet's dad. The books reveal his name is Will, and he was a high-ranked scientist, not a rank-and-file guy working the computers. Though considering what does go down, maybe we do need to worry about Papa Scarlatina, if he was lucky enough to not have been within Cinder's firing range already. Regardless, Watts now has what he's always wanted, complete access to Atlas's military tech, and Cinder even says that he deserves this, in another moment that's hard to tell if she's being genuine or not, or if this is just her masterfully playing the be humble and offer people what they want to truly make them useful to me card. What's also interesting is the use of the word deserve, when Watts was the one claiming to Cinder that you need to be more than that to be strong. You have to be worthy. Which, again, makes me wonder if she's just playing the manipulation game, getting the full use out of Watts, but with the aid of a carrot on a stick approach rather than a stick across the hands. Insert scene here of bad guy eats apple smugly to really make them look like an asshole trope, and doing so after only cleaning the blood off with a quick jacket wipe. Gross. And after seeing that, yep, it was Watts who messed up the communications to delay the evacuation, we jump back to the hangar where Crow, Robin, and Marrow are binding up the Aesops. And I love how Elm's anger that they'll destroy the kingdom by letting Atlas drop gets backhanded by Robin pulling the Asgard is not a place card. Atlas will survive because its people will, not the land the kingdom just so happens to be built on is safe. And sure, it will suck to lose Atlas as the location, at least for now, but what these three need to remember is they are meant to protect the people, and this comeback, while short, is a perfect blunt force quote with the right person saying it as well to really try and drive that point home through the last vestige of stubborn loyalty, especially with Ironwood now under wraps. It certainly seems like Elm took the words to heart given her look down afterwards, and maybe Vine as well, since he turns off his semblance to get himself binded. Maybe he's actually surrendering in this instance. A good bit of subtle expression work, especially given the lack of available movement. But what's not subtle is Watts trying to wipe the group out with a lone drone suddenly going full sprint through gunfire while ticking away, creating an immediate sense of oh shit before Marrow takes the suicide blast full on, knocking him out, freeing the captives, and allowing Harriet to flee with the bomb while Vine is in tow, as Atlas starts to shake up with the changing gravity. Having the bomb issue come back into play is a rather good move, and a solid addition to the episode's ever-increasing rising dangers, because now each major location has an immediate conflict to deal with. However, I will say that I'm still not sold on how this series has been doing these slash cuttings and how they get utilized sometimes. I mean, I do like it how it shrinks and acts as a visual countdown along with the suicide drones ticking, whilst also making room for some Crow and Robin expressions, but I also don't like how much of the visuals it covers up at the end, making it tricky to see the impact when that should be the most important part to show before the explosion, to make it clear who is at most risk at the last second. Another detail that I'm a bit iffy on is here, as we see Ironwood wake up in the Briggs. My issue being that last episode we saw him get walked into the cell by just Winter, yet this scene goes about it like he's been out cold since the fight. Nothing majorly damning to the scene, but the contrast of how he was put in the cell versus his reaction coming out of it does come off as a bit of a jarring whiplash, so I had to at least point it out. Anyway, with the general now awake, he's stuck with facing the fact that he has lost control of the staff to the heroes, and Jacques, his roommate, is happy to rub salt in the wound, which is the last thing he needs. Suddenly, James's cell walls start to flicker and ultimately vanish, which I'm kinda confused on its cause. If it's Watts doing this to maybe set the mad general loose and cause more trouble, then I can get the reasoning there to an extent, except that would also put him at risk should the general come across him, plus we don't see any shot hinting that it was Watts. So that means that this is either the fault of Atlas's being affected by the changing gravity, or perhaps the damage that Watts and company did to the main hub. Whatever the case, it comes off a bit unclear and very convenient, which, depending on how you personally take such instances, can be a bit of a downer point. Also, why is James's gun kept close to his cell? Having James be within walking distance of his weapons should be too big a risk to not think about. Then again, I'm always appreciative when JRPGs don't toss my weapons away whenever the party gets arrested, and I guess this isn't exactly a standard procedure situation right now, so I guess I'll give it a pass. At the very least, we do get to see the laser blaster finally get used this time, to blow Jacques' Schnee to smithereens. Hot damn! What a way to go for old Jacques. And I love the cold look on Ironwood's face as well, as he finally rids himself of a massive thorn in his side. And yet, I'm actually torn seeing him die like this. Don't get me wrong, I like what the scene does to show that Ironwood has well and truly gone no-nonsense ruthless and mad with warped emotions, and I can't deny that Jacques did brought this upon himself with his past actions and recent mocking comments. But at the same time, I did want to see Jacques face justice for his crimes, to the world and to his family. The guy was responsible for so much suffering for the fullness in Atlas and across Remnant. He was also a callous businessman, only focused on his wealth, status, and legacy. His deals with Watts resulted in innocent lives being slain at Mantle, and of course, he tormented his wife and children for years, tearing the family apart and inflicting mental and physical harm, all for his own benefit. For such a long-lasting streak of crimes and abuse, seeing Jacques get killed so quick and unceremoniously almost feels like he's escaped his crimes. He may have died, but he also avoided being put through deserved justice as long as the torment he created. And I can't help but imagine that that might be the same conflicted reactions that the Schnee family themselves might feel. Hopefully we do get to see their reactions down the line to this, even if they never truly learn how he died, as that should make for a powerful moment of each family member's growth moving forward. But I guess until then, all that's left to say is, rest in peace to the clip-on time meme. From one explosion to the next, this right here is probably my favourite sequence in the episode. A massive 4-on-1 melee with Team RWBY going ham against Cinder, who more than holds her own, with a constant stream of fast-paced action that flows smooth as butter, all while the camera pans and spins around to show the scale of the endless attacks and the mass crowd still fleeing around them. It's wild to see how so much is going on, yet the choreography doesn't dip in terms of pacing, momentum, and style. And considering that past fight scenarios like this have had less than pleasing results in the past, it's a massive marker of the hard work everyone involved has put in to make sure it landed its punches. You could rewatch this scene multiple times over just focusing on one of the characters and be satisfied with their attacks, movement, and how well they work in tandem with the others, including Cinder, who looks proper intimidating, matching each girl's attack with relative ease. A stellar showcase of her incredible combat skill when she's not blindingly going in all guns blazing. Of course, this is still Cinder we're talking about, so she can't resist a good gloat as she shoots upwards with a Maidenado. But it's also an act done with purpose, as is pretty much every move she's made since her explosive reveal, cause it turns out Cinder's actually playing the role of the distraction, keeping the girl's attention focused solely on her while Neo sneaks her way towards RWBY, ready to land a stealthy, killing blow. Once more, we're seeing Cinder's refined tactical mentality making her a much more dangerous foe to overcome, and the fact that she's willing to play the supportive role to a plan that caters more to someone else's goals continues to show more of that consideration for her allies that is just as fascinating to see unfold as is this welcome dose of revitalized cunning and dominance. At the same time though, I do love that it's not a perfect improvement. Cinder just can't help but brag and show some overconfidence in the plan, almost revealing that she's got backup before Neo could seal the deal. And it's because of this time wasted talking, not fighting, that Yang has time to spot Neo's attack just in time to take the blow for RWBY, narrowly avoiding getting killed herself, but the force of the strike does enough to break her aura, knock her for a loop, and send her flying over the edge. Our biggest fears are now realized, as is those of the rest of her team. But while a stunned RWBY and Weiss watch on in fear, Blake reacts fast and throws out Gamble's shroud. The slow motion at this point very well utilized to ramp up the suspense factor, allow time to see the initial reactions, and draw out the moment just long enough to give us enough time to process what's going on so we can hope that Blake is able to reach her. Only to come up short. leading to Yang to fall all the way down into the darkness and dissolve amongst the void. Oh boy, this was a rough sight to see, especially as a big fan of Yang. But damn if it wasn't masterfully executed too. Massive props to the director, storyboarder, and pretty much everyone involved in this scene's creation that helped make it such a powerfully heartbreaking, soul-shattering moment through each key piece at play. I already praised the smart use of slow motion, but I also love the decision to keep things silent, removing the music and most sounds to let the visuals speak for themselves. And there's an additional flavour of brutal pain to this moment in having Gamble's shroud just missed Yang, as past instances of the Bumblebee team move has always worked, until now. And the first time that someone's failed to catch the other end results in the absolute worst time for it to happen, with someone's supposed death as the price to pay for failure. Gotta love subtle, emotionally compelling layers like this, adding further spice to even the smallest details. What's also appreciated was having the first instance of one of our heroes falling off the paths not leading to a rescue. That way we don't waste the initial fear of what could happen if we're led to believe that someone will always be there to catch them, and now we've seen firsthand what will happen if you do fall, or if someone can reach you. And that increased fear factor coming so early into this final battle gives that prospect an even bigger presence in our minds, making the rest of the fighting gain more tension and thus our fullest investment all the way through. And then there's the cherry on top, that scream from Blake that echoes across the scene and ushers back in the score that's just as loud and emotionally charged as the poor girl's cry. It was something that we were teased about for a while thanks to Aaron, and boy did she nail it. That echo especially making the pained emotions in her voice pull at my heartstrings even tighter. It's days after this episode first dropped and I can still hear it ringing in my head, and mixed in with that utter look of pain and dismay on her face, it's very much looking to be one of those wonderfully delivered emotional lines that will stick in my head for a long time, much like "What did I say? Do you believe in destiny?" and "I'm not gonna break my promise." But let's finally address the Goliath in the room, and I'm not talking about people complaining the clearly stunned Yang can't shoot her way to safety. I'm of course talking about Yang's fall definitely not being her end, cause as emotionally charged as this moment is, we all figured someone was gonna fall, and we're all about 99% sure that Yang's still alive, or at least not dead for good, with her story still yet to be finished. So that did lessen some of the initial tension and later concern a tad. However, the best thing about this scenario is we have no real clues to go on what exactly happened to her, and if she's alive, where did she go? We at least assume that Yang will return, even if not immediately, but her being in this situation where her fate and location is so into the unknown she should be called Elsa will keep us chewing at the bit in excitement and curiosity until it is addressed, whilst maintaining the drama right now in the heroes making sure that they don't follow suit for the rest of the fight, keeping things nice and tense on that front. So yeah, I can't really say much else bar pure speculation, which I am going to be saving until later on in this video, so please stay tuned for my finale predictions. One other complaint about this scene that I've heard as well is regarding RWBY, with some folks being upset that she's not more upset, which I really don't get. Everyone reacts to grief and loss differently. There's not exactly one way only to react in such a moment. And while the RWBY clearly want Blake's reaction to be the biggest, it doesn't mean that RWBY meekly calling out for Yang in shock isn't as realistic or depressing to hear. Adding to the situation is she's immediately set upon by Neo again. So unlike Blake, RWBY has little time to process things before she has to worry about not getting killed. At least we get more out of Blake's reaction to cover the wider array of emotions, with the Catgirl feeling so distraught and desperate to save Yang that it's taken Weiss all she can to stop Blake from jumping in after her, only for her to then snap and charge after Neo, looking proper feral in the process. Obviously, this loss is hurting her so much, not just because she couldn't save Yang, but because of her growing feelings for her partner as of late. And after the two promised to never be apart again, this is no doubt breaking her heart. As such, you gotta feel that whenever we do get the two reuniting, that has to be the moment, the best time to finally have one or both of them address their romantic feelings openly. Otherwise, you are left with few better moments than this that would best suit such a monumental moment in the pair's relationship. So, fingers crossed, this massive low point in their bond is only gonna lead to the most fitting high well worth all this build up. As the music kicks back up with a massive swell of epic orchestral energy, Ruby and Blake deal with Neo, while Weiss has to hold her own against Cinder. And as you would expect, this makes a bit of a tough fight for her, considering Cinder makes easy work of melting her glyphs. Though I do like the melting effects here, and the small moment of Weiss catching herself nearing the edge while dodging the flames. Blake's scream also caught Penny's attention, who decides that she can't wait around anymore and let her friends be in trouble, leading to her charging in with a big old Superman punch. Small problem though, this is what Cinder wants, another shot at Penny, who just so happens to not be used to not having her robot parts, including her floating array blades. Good thing that she can make some of her own with her maiden magic, which looked proper cool. But yeah, Penny's still gotta get used to fighting like a magical human, not a magical robot. And while she does match blades well with Cinder for the most part, I'm worried about what this inexperience and recklessness could lead to now that Penny's just an aura break away from being a squishy human easier to kill, especially against a much smarter Cinder, who keeps Penny on the ropes, even while still having Weiss trying to help her out. I do like though that this leads to Weiss having to protect more of the civvies caught up in all this mess, while blocking Cinder's shards. Good to still keep their safety in mind to keep things as perilous as possible. Same goes for all those still trying to cross over from Atlas, and I wonder if Jean notices that these attacks are coming from Cinder, cause if so, will he dive in to try and help out, resulting in his first clash with Cinder since Haven? That could be another interesting rematch with both individuals in a smarter headspace since last time, though I hope it doesn't lead to Jean's death. Honestly, it's insane that there's so many big fights right now with tons of emotions brewing and so many ways that this can go right and wrong. It already feels like one of the most knife-edge penultimate chapters in the series with no surefire clue on how things will end. And we've only just gotten about halfway through this chapter, with events in this setting left in the balance with Blake caught between wanting to avenge her fallen partner alongside RWBY, or help protect Weiss, Penny and the civilians from Cinder and follow her mission. Meanwhile, we see folks in Mantle are still trying to flee, not knowing that Harriet is drawing closer with the bomb, and though she's happy to see that Vine made it onto the ship okay too, she's less than happy when he tries to talk her out of dropping the bomb. As odd as it may be for the emotionless Vine to be the one now trying to break through Harriet's emotions, I think it actually works, considering between him and Elm, he's the one most known for trying to be the voice of reason. Yeah, it's a shame that it's taken until now, and only after Ironwood had already been stopped, that he finally acted on his own conflicting emotions, but him trying to reason with Harriet through logic is a welcome difference to past instances of folks just trying to go with the sharp attitude contrast between Harriet. It's thanks to him as well that we're able to crack the surface level excuses that Harriet gives out, claiming that it's the principle to follow their orders loyally to the end, when really, it looks like Harriet's doing this under the notion that Clover would and did try to do the same, following his orders even up to his death, ironically not knowing that the guy actually wished Crow well in stopping the general, showing that in the end he at least understood the wrongs that he had to endure under orders. So yeah, I guess Harriet had strong feelings for Clover, if this breakdown is anything to go on. Not sure if it's romantic or maybe if it's just high admiration, but this was indeed a surprising outburst, since looking back, we really didn't have many instances of the two interacting to suggest that there were strong feelings present in the speedster. At the same time though, that might be on purpose. After all, Harriet did come off as the biggest supporter of the Aesops keeping their relationship strictly professional, so this could have been a bit of a setup for a bit of cruel, hypocritical irony that the one most letting bonds within the group not affect the mission is now showing herself to be the only member of the group with the biggest emotionally effective motivations harming her actions. It doesn't excuse her reckless and stubborn attitude, and I still would have liked some more interactions between Harriet and Clover to better set up this dynamic, but I can't deny being slightly intrigued in finally seeing the wounded heart underneath all that swagger and thick-headed loyalty, creating a small window of hope that maybe she can finally be brought down a peg to stop doing this and realize where she's going wrong. Shame then that Robin ruins the moment after bashing the plane with her own, and Harriet doubles down, refusing to betray what she feels is right by kicking Vine off the plane. Well, so much for feeling sorry for Harriet. Man, it's hard being a fan of her character when she's such a pain in the ass. Anyway, while Robin tries to save Vine from falling, Harriet has charged the bomb, only for her troubles to continue with one hell of a flyby. Incoming! Holy hell, that's a badass entrance. And now it seems we got ourselves a brawl between the two people most scarred by Clover's death up in the clouds. That should make for a pretty wild bout, matching Harriet's speed and anger with Crow's power and focus. Though what's obviously the most worrying thing is the fact that they're still fighting around a bomb that's ready to blow. And lo and behold, Watts has now gained control of the aircraft, redirecting it elsewhere. I can't really figure out what he plans to do with the bomb, if he's stopping it from destroying Mantle, and the fact that he already knows that Alice is gonna fall anyway, so why bomb that? Does he want to save it for Salem to use in the future, or does he perhaps want to blast up the portal realm? That could be definitely catastrophic for sure, and really send folks flying into the void. We'll have to wait and see. And the fights just keep on coming, cause Winter arrives in the vault next, wondering why she can't contact anyone, before just barely blocking the brunt of an incoming laser attack from one super pissed General Ironwood, who talks about how he's always suspected he would be betrayed while chasing shadows of those he feared could bring harm to the kingdom, though he never thought Winter would betray him. And here I am just wishing the guy stopped chasing those shadows to realize why he himself is the root cause to why Winter and so many others have gone against his trust. He's so paranoid about danger coming from anywhere and anyone that he's never stopped to see what it is about him that makes it hard to support. He himself has gone behind those that he has trusted, thinking that it was the right answer for every problem, and he keeps making tough choices that maybe himself can bear the burden of, but others can't. Yes, others have proven him right on occasion when it comes to trust, but he's so caught up in thinking about how he always knows what's best for the kingdom that he's blinded himself into thinking everyone is an enemy, and now that he's willing to do whatever it takes to prove he's right about how to best protect the kingdom, he's truly become insane with pride, anger, and bitterness. And it's led us to here, a clash between the mad tyrant general and the last person who tried to stand by him, now accepting that he's become the very danger he claimed to prevent. And I am for this fight big time. Big shout out to Elizabeth and Jason for their powerful deliveries here, firm and emboldened, but with enough of an underlining sad emotional current that paints a painful picture of what was once a deeply personal bond both are now pained to see torn apart and set to combust in a big way. Ironwood as well shedding a tear down his cold exterior being that last extra special visual to perfectly embody the pair's conflicting emotions and resolve to fight to the bitter end if need be. Also, major props for having the shing of Winter's blade echo as the music pauses for a moment, letting Winter's declaration hang in the air with enough weight and passion to not need any supporting track. With so many masterful touches to the musical direction, let alone the quality of the music itself, I feel really confident right now in saying that this is hands down the best episode score this volume. You know, unless the finale somehow surpasses it. And at this rate, that's quite possible. But even this isn't the end of the episode, as we start to wrap things up with one last check-in on the folks at Vacuo, with Ren unable to mask the negativity anymore, and things look to be even more bleak when Oscar discovers they can't go back through the portal, as it soon becomes apparent that a slip of the tongue from Weiss about a one-way ticket to Vacuo was taken seriously by Ambrosius. They really did a good job masking that comment last episode, with it popping up during the creation of the Portal Realm, which tricked us into thinking that such a risky comment was okay since the request was already being worked on. And now there's a major concerning thought that our heroes could very well be split up for a long time if they don't make it through. Again, I'll discuss what I think might happen in the finale in a bit, but suffice to say, I got a very bad feeling about this. And to make matters worse, the Grimm are here, with the mass amount of negative emotions luring in a swarm of Ravagers, a Bat Grimm first introduced in the E.C. Myers books, as well as seen in Amity Arena. Not a bad first taste of Vacuo's dark dangers, with the episode coming to a close with just the Green Team left to protect the civilians. So, before we get to my final predictions, let's have a blast through my final thoughts of this whopper of an episode. Pretty much from the start, we were blindsided by wave after wave of high-octane drama, action, and emotion. And it's crazy to think how jam-packed this chapter was just by not even being the longest in the volume. At the same time though, I never felt any scene dragged on longer than necessary, with each scenario capping off at the best point to satisfy us for now and leave us with plenty to look forward to next time out. We got fantastic set pieces on a scale unlike anything seen before, with barely any dips in quality, as well as some monumental shocks and twists, and even a few details that raised some eyebrows but still supported how interesting they play into their content, like finally touching on Harriet's motivations, and some of the sadness in the final Jin question being balanced out by how big of a role it played in Cinder's wonderfully captivating rebirth as a villain worth fearing and investing in. What's especially pleasing is that every central character, bar perhaps Nora and Emerald, had something worthwhile to do, even to the tiniest degree like Jean's comedic highlights. And I've already gone on record about how much I love stuff like Yang's fate being left a major mystery, as well as the stellar work on the fight scale and choreography, and the 5-star level score work. The best thing about this episode though, it left us with so much to ponder on and cling on to until the finale, while still being a rewarding chapter on its own merits. And for a blockbuster chapter packed to the brim, that is one hell of an achievement. And let's quickly dive into the episode awards, now with the scene of the episode, which, I mean, what else can it be? Even with so many other scenes that would easily win this award in other episodes, Yang's fall is the biggest takeaway moment that left me stunned even when expecting it to happen. And as said before, it left with nothing to cling onto, making it that much better a cliffhanger for the character. Speaking of character, the episode's MVP character for me is Cinder. Never before has she felt like a truly dangerous villain and an engrossing character at the same time, and to the same high quality as well. Finally, the voice acting gold star, I'm gonna give it to Eren, because like I said, that scream is gonna be stuck in my head for a long time. So, predictions time, starting with the bomb. I can see Crow winning the fight against Harriet, but ultimately not being able to stop the explosion, though him, Robin and Vine will probably get away, while Harriet stubbornly goes all the way with her orders, unwilling to balk after coming so far. What's concerning though is we didn't see Elm and Marrow after the hangar incident, but I do reckon that they will make it out okay as well, either via the portals or an airship. Speaking of airships, we don't know if the Shnees will fly to Vacuo on the Mantine that we saw before, or they will use the portals, but hopefully they are safe and they might even pick up Pietro and Maria along the way, who we still don't know if they did survive Amity's supposed crash. As for Watts, I can actually see him die here, because I don't think Cinder is going to be able to make it back to him in time for him to get out before Atlas falls. And if we're going to Vacuo, I don't really see much use for a guy whose biggest thing is tech. Next up, Winter vs Ironwood. Personally, I would like Winter to live and eventually become the new general in the future, but I could also see her sacrifice herself to stop Ironwood from reaching the portal, unless Elm and Marrow arrive here to help her out, which I actually feel will be the case. Ironwood though, I think this will be his end, either by Winter's hand or going down with the ship, unwavering from leaving Atlas even in defeat. Then there's the fighting in Vacuo. Hopefully the green team will have support by the Happy Huntresses should they make it through, but I'm also about 85% sure that we are going to see Team Coffee and Team Sun arrive to help out, since, slight spoilers for Before the Dawn, that book did end with the folks seeing that there was an incoming sandstorm, so they might have already been called on about people being in need of help while tracking the bad weather, which should mean that tomorrow I could be seeing Best Bun. And if you know me, you better brace your ears, cause I will scream so loud you will hear me wherever you are. And then, let's finally talk about everyone in the Portal Realm, and who I think is gonna make it out of there. Again, I think the Happy Huntresses are gonna get through, but I also think it will make sense to have all of the rest of Team RWBY fall into the void, as they are the main cast, and we can still see them be divided depending on what falling into the void does, so there's still room for some interesting outcomes with the divides there. Jean, I'm unsure of. I could see him fall or make it to Vacuo and be our lead character of the split group there, and Nora, I reckon she's gonna fall, and make her and Ren focusing on themselves before taking their next step as a pair become a forced divide. As for Penny, I reckon she's gonna fall as well, either trying to save RWBY or as a result of the outcome with her fight against Cinder. And I think both Cinder and Neo were also falling as well, so we will have some villain focus in whatever this void will introduce. Speaking of which, I'm gonna put it out there that I have a somewhat confident guess that falling in the void will send you to a place beyond Remnant, just like the Vault and the Portal Realm, and it will be tied to the afterlife. Why? Well, we heard before that Volume 9 was apparently something planned even before Volume 1 was a thing, and thinking back on what was established concepts during that time, my thoughts went to one person. Summer. Yep, I think Volume 9 is going to be not just our ticket to finding out everything about Summer's death, I think it will take us to a realm full of impactful deceased characters that will lead to all kinds of massive character growths and reveals for the living. For example, just off the top of my head, we could have RWBY interacting with Summer, Blake with Adam, Weiss with Nicholas, Jean with Pyrrha, Nora with her mother, Neo with Roman, and Cinder, well, I can't really think of anyone off the top of my head. Maybe past maidens? Either way, I think this is the route that the volume is gonna take, and we'll see a lot of things dealing with events in the Afterlife realm that will make these characters grow and finally answer some long-standing mysteries, while we also stick around in Vacuo to watch those left behind deal with preparing for the next fight against Salem and the issues of bringing tons of Atlesians to the kingdom with the biggest grudge against the Northern Kingdom. Will I be right? Well, we'll find out soon enough. But regardless, what a wild ride this chapter was, and so many have been as well beforehand. The RWBY have had some magical moments over the course of the whole volume, let alone this second half, and as nervous as I am for the finale, it's sad to see such a wonderful volume come to a close. Hopefully though, if it is anything like this chapter, it will definitely go out with a bang. But what about you guys? Did you like this episode? What were your thoughts on Yang's fall? Were you let down by the final Jin question? What do you think about my predictions? And what do you think will happen in the Volume 8 finale? Let me know in the comments down below, and while you're at it, hit the subscribe and bell buttons and tick the notification box to make sure you get every new video from me as they drop. And follow me on Twitter for more on anything to do with RWBY, as well as updates on the channel and more. But until next time, have a good day or good night, and peace out.